There's nothing outside your body that's being introduced in a way. It's just your body having more energy. And when your body has more energy to function well, it starts to want to reorganize, and clean house. So it might start pushing things from your cells into the bloodstream in an attempt to maybe eliminate it.
Hello and welcome to Quest for Peace. I am Saju, your host. Today, please help me welcome Melati Bertolacini. She's the Vice President of the EE System, which is a cutting edge technology for health and wellness. She's an international speaker, published author, and wellness expert. Mitali has helped grow EE System into a global network of over 700 centers across 60 countries, pioneering holistic health through advanced scalar energy. Hello, May, and thank you very much for being here and taking your time out to talk to me. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. I don't usually get asked to do these things. I'm usually in the office, sort of handling day-to-day stuff, so it's kind of fun.
Good. We're going to have fun today. I want to get to know May. I would love to know what made you decide to, stay in this field and not maybe go and be a lawyer or whatever else that.
I didn't initially want to work for the family business. I really, out of high school, my
Mhm.
brother had immediately kind of taken over the running of things. He's 3 years older than me. Um, and that worked for him. He likes being his own boss. He really, it works in that way. And my mom definitely is an amazing human being, but a business person, maybe not her primary gift, we'll say, as far as keeping things running on the back end is, taxes and, paperwork stuff. No, she's a people person.
Right.
That's ultimately what she is, and an educator a lot of times. So I didn't feel like there was a place for me at that time. And I think I really just wanted to go and have a college experience. And I went to San Francisco for that.
Okay.
And I majored in art history of all things. It does make sense though. I love people, I love culture. And so being able to kind of see a more true version of how things were happening, maybe historically versus normal history, I think is very limiting and it's kind of written by the victors. With
Mm.
art, you're seeing kind of a who made this and why, and maybe who commissioned it, and what were they trying to say socially at that time. So I've always really loved that, but it's actually come in handy. Like I said, 60 countries. I've spoken to most of the people that are opening our centers. And so it's nice to kind of have an understanding of all these different parts of the world and kind of some of the subcontext happening outside of just the United States.
I don't know where I got this, but were you guys in Hawaii or did you start there?
I grew up mostly in Hawaii. I was not born there. I was raised. I grew up chanting and doing hula, not ballet. Uh, and it was a beautiful place to be. It's very different now in a lot of ways because, I mean, I'm sure anybody that's grown up somewhere 30 years later, they're like, wow, this has changed.
Yes.
But it's still amazing to go back. And we're business based in Las Vegas now, which is considered the ninth island because there's more Native Hawaiians here at this point than there are in Hawaii itself.
I
So
didn't know
funny.
that.
Mhm.
Interesting. I need to come to Las Vegas again.
Yeah. Well, just maybe like the strip has its perks if you want to go shows and shop it or whatever. But honestly, once you're off the strip, it's a very relaxed kind of just neighborhood vibe.
Sounds great. Sounds great.
Mhm.
So, okay, so you left Hawaii to come to Vegas because of business. That's where you wanted to start.
Well, no, I went to San Francisco for school. And then at that time, having seen more of the world and how things worked and, having like a normal college job, I realized I didn't like this. I wanted to be able to help people. That's
Mm.
always what I wanted to do. And most of the time, if you're in retail or working in a restaurant, you're helping people to an extent, but it's not in the same capacity of really affecting change on a greater scale which is always what I wanted to do. Even when I was in high school, I'm like, I want to work for the UN or, do something kind of bigger.
Amazing. That's why we are all in the fields that we are, right?
If I hadn't had that experience and kind of understood, corporate culture and things of that nature a little bit better, I wouldn't be the person I am today. Right.
Yes, it's all a journey. Everything helps the next step.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Everyone should work in the service industry at some point in their life. Appreciate it.
Well, May, as you know, my organization, Infinite Love, recently purchased the EE system, and we have already started using it at our meditation center. And I have so many questions that come towards me, and I thought the best thing would be to talk to May and get the lowdown about what all this is about. I want to know how you came to this place, at the space that you are right now with the EE system. You are the manager, or
Vice president.
so I would love to know how about your journey. How did you get here?
I mean, it's been a long one. So we're a family business. It was just the three of us, me, my mom, and my brother for many, many years with little bits of help here and there. My mom's the inventor and founder. She's had a long history in health and wellness. So she was primarily known for being a hands-on healer. So when I was a child growing up, we were doing all kinds of things with the body mostly. She would do trainings and she was trying to kind of share her knowledge with others because she was very, very well known. She would travel all over the world to work on a lot of, VIP clients. They'd fly her in, she'd work on them and their family for hours and hours, and then she'd fly home again. She's like, well, this is limiting. There's only one of me. And even with trying to train people, oftentimes they would get little bits and pieces. So one person might get, more the spiritual breath work side of things. Another person might actually get some of the more body manipulations, right? But nobody was really bringing everything that she did and combining it fully, if that makes sense. We're all so unique.
Yeah.
So her thoughts were starting to go to, well, how can I recreate me all over the world and being able to hold space for people 24/7. So that kind of got her asking these questions of how do I replicate my work, and some of that is her linguistics and triggering people's genius and balancing left and right hemispheres of the brain, and a lot of things. So in the 90s, she started to create what we now know as the E system. It wasn't called that back then. It's called HHFE. She did set out to create scalar, which is now what we know it is. It's
Before you go further, I have a quick question. You said she's a healer, and what kind of healing was she doing? Number one, and number two, how did she create a system that's computerized, or yeah.
yeah. So my grandparents met in science and engineering at Ohio State. My grandfather was an aeronautical engineer, so he worked on Mach 3 and other like stealth bomber type things. This is in the early 1950s. And my grandmother was working on fusion plutonium, essentially. She was working at Battelle Labs. So you have this very strong engineering scientific background. And my uncle did go into that. He did contract work for Lockheed and other things. So that was in there. But my mom went the other way. She saw life is energy, which makes sense, right? But instead of trying to fission things, she tried to fuse them and create more different ways of looking at things. So she had that electrical, the body is an electrical being because of that. But she kind of steered away from that and went more the hippie route, we'll say,
Right.
versus engineering, and then came back around to being like, okay, there is something, well, I don't want to use engineering in that way. How can I use it in a good way? Um, and then also technology had come around to a point by the 90s where certain things were available and accessible as consumers, where computerized things were much harder to get in the 70s, let's say, right? So she did chiropractic, radionics, all kinds of different nutritional things. She had a wellness spa in the 70s in Pennsylvania that did incorporate other therapies, modalities. So it was kind of like taking all these bits and pieces and combining it. over time. And again, she was more focused on creating a field, like an energy field with this. And it's you'd have to ask her exactly because a lot of it was downloaded. She was having very specific kind of questions as far as, okay, how do I this come from here? And then she would find people too that were like experts in something that she's looking for, and she'd bring them in and kind of learn from them how to make that possible. So she was pulling different pieces from different places to create her vision. And at first it was one unit, and one unit was cute. It was doing something. It wasn't like nothing. But then over time, she also got the idea. It's like, no, wait, this needs to be a system. And so that's where some of the magic really happens is when you have not just the one unit. This is why they're always sold in multiples of four, and they're very precisely aligned to create that scalar vortex. So one unit doesn't really create the scalar by itself at all. It is that intersection of fields where that magic happens, and then that kind of comes out. I wish I had some visuals for you because I feel like it's hard to comprehend fifth dimensional concepts just through words, even with pictures. It's still limiting but helpful.
Right. I tell the people that come in here that we have 12 unit system. So I tell them, like, imagine if you could see, imagine that this energy is being, from the opposite ends meeting in the center, and it bursts open and then it goes
Mhm.
all the way around. It's like that apple
That's your
shaped,
Taurus.
that,
Yeah.
yeah, like the layman's term, the apple shaped thing, and it's just going everywhere and you can't see it. If you could see it, that's what you would see. I guess that's a correct
Yeah.
analogy.
And but again, scalar can be limiting because it doesn't necessarily denote health and wellness by itself. Scalar is by definition any fifth dimensional and nonlinear or non-Hertzian frequency. So that's just kind of means anything you can't explain in the third dimension, which is where we kind of are.
Right.
So with that being said, you do have to look at the effect. That's how you can really show what's happening is, okay, I'm not seeing just sound or light waves or whatever, third dimensional stuff. I'm seeing that plus other things, and I can prove that because of XYZ reaction.
So for
Literally,
like,
before and
proof
after.
is in the pudding. You are in there, you
Mhm.
see how it's working with you.
Exactly.
And yeah.
I think most people feel it, and even animals feel it. Oftentimes, they like to go straight into the middle of the room where that vortex is occurring. And I like to tell people it's not like it's stronger there. I think there's just more of a sensation in that point. So anywhere in the room is going to be good.
Right. Actually, I went in. I always bring my little pup with me when I come to work, and he always goes and sits right there in the center as well. And another dog my son brought, and he told me, "Look, they keep going in the center." I said, oh, "Probably they're feeling it there." Yeah.
Yeah, they need a little extra love too.
Yes, yes, for sure. But when people come in, they see these screens, and they're looking at colors and whatever it's is it
Scroll.
code
Yeah, it
that
is
is.
code. Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
different things going on there. I always like to say the magic is in the box behind the screen. The screen is important. It's like the tire on the vehicle. The vehicle is where all the special engineering and fun stuff is, but you can't drive it anywhere without wheels, right?
Right.
So we're beings of light. The primary function of our DNA is the storage of photons. And I think people are really kind of understanding that more these days with red and blue light therapy things
Yes.
being much bigger. And it is one component. You do want your color therapy and all of that. But primarily, the light is a carrier wave for the scalar being generated in the base unit. The scalar doesn't have a way to interact with us very much naturally. It can do things in our environment, but for our purposes, the function of the DNA is stored to photons. So I think it is like a really positive Trojan horse. And that's why the benefits are always going to be the best in the room with the system. Although, of course, a lot of people probably feel it even in the parking lot sometimes. They can sense that there's something different going on.
Right. That's correct. It's very exciting. It makes a big difference in our room for meditation. People have gone much deeper into meditation. And it's so funny. Usually, after meditation, we have a circle of sharing, and usually everyone shares something. But this time, every time I ask them, would anyone like to share? Nobody wants to speak. They're all, deep still. They can't get out of that space.
So it's been really, really exciting to see more people being ready for this kind of thing in this time frame. I think it's a secret gift of COVID in a lot of ways, because before that we were somewhat known, but as far as people being open to alternative modalities and being a little bit more ready to have, I think, accountability for their own health more and more, that opened a lot of people's eyes and maybe being like, okay, maybe there's something other than just what my doctor's talking about, just medication or this or that, that I can be looking into. And more recently, we've grown significantly. We're in about 60 countries now, that and counting. So it's, yeah, like I said, you're one of many centers out there so that people can go and try this and experience this for themselves. And that's always really exciting. That's what I do, is I talk to people such as yourself that want to hold space and make this available where they are. But usually they're also combining it with other modalities, which is, I know what you do as well. I think it's great that
That's
they all are very unique.
yes, yes, yes. So, of course, I'm sure you are using the system yourself. When your mom first started it, did you find difference in yourself?
I mean, I was so young, and people do ask all the time, like, what's your experience? I'm like, well, I stay healthy, and people tell me I look young for my age, so I'll take that. But as far as that goes, I mean, I've never been somebody else, if that makes sense. So it's like, I'm not, someone that, did this and that, kind of didn't take care of their body until they were 50 years old and things started to go wrong. And then suddenly I'm trying to reverse things. I've always been more proactive, I guess. Raised vegan slash vegetarian. We did parasite cleanses and stuff growing up, right? So, but it's amazing how many people actually don't do a detox bath until they meet us. And like I said, it's decades of, wear and tear
Yeah,
and not enough care, I think, for looking at how can you support this vessel through its journey, because we take aging, I think, as a given.
mm,
Like, oh, this is just how things are supposed to be. I'm gonna get older and things aren't gonna work as well anymore. And it's just kind of like, oh well. But I think I've met some amazing people that are in their 90s and they're still walking about and healthy and, mentally astute. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think that actually should be normalized.
exactly. But the thing is, with my center, it's so hard to get people to come in and meditate. I don't have time. It's too long for me to sit still. So it's like a rat race out there, and not unless they get some kind of a disease or an issue that that's what the body has to do to stop everyone on their tracks and say, hey, look after me.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're waiting for your body to tell you you have to do something almost versus the proactive approach. And I think again I think that culture will change. It already has with like the biohacking movement.
Yes.
For the people that don't have the time, I'd say do the overnights. You don't have to take any extra time out of your day. Just come in and sleep. You're going to sleep probably, I would hope anyway.
Right. Right.
And if they can do a little bit extra once a week and do the salt bath and just make sure they're drinking more water.
Mhm.
I mean, I think sometimes it's just making those little small habits into reflex, you know, it makes a big difference over time. Like I said, even just, I know people that only drink like maybe 16 ounces of water a day and the rest is coffee or soda. So even for someone like that, just making the small shift, maybe, just maybe cut out the soda, do more water. I'm not going to tell you to give up your coffee because people.
That's hard. You can't do so many changes all at once.
Maybe, and then slowly maybe be like, okay, I'm not going to get Starbucks. I'm going to buy a better quality
Mhm.
brand or something like that. And I'll make it myself without all the extra sugar and the fillers and this and that. And it's just slowly, bit by bit, just making the slightly healthier choice. And sometimes it's funny how the healthier choice is actually less expensive over time, not just in your pocketbook, but like with the energy you have and what you can accomplish in your day to day.
Yep.
And hopefully, maybe, you won't be possibly needing as much medical whatever down the line too.
Yeah, and you save all that money.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's true. So, like I've had so many questions, and people want to know how soon will I feel the difference once I'm in the system. And like, let me give you an example of myself. I've Because I'm here all the time, I'm in the system, and I've had a lot of pain in my shoulder. I did weights and I tore thing, and it's been hurting. And I thought being in the system, it should, because I'm in here for so long, it should have gotten better. But I realized that I heard you say once that the body will go to the place that it needs the urgent work, to be taken care of, and then go to the ones that you think that needs to be taken care of. So that's what I'm
Exactly.
thinking is happening, right? And I've
Mhm.
noticed that my digestion I feel something there. It's getting better. So that's probably what it is. So it really does. Is there a particular amount of time that you say, well, after so many hours, you should see a difference, or is there anything like that?
I always say manage expectations because you'll see a lot of testimonials out there where people are like, I went in for 2 hours and I had this amazing thing happen. And certainly that is 100% possible. But also, you're in a slightly smaller system, A. So 12 versus 24, you're going to have a difference in kind of strength of the field, anywho. But yeah, no, I mean, the managing expectation part is you mentally as a human being don't cognate everything that's going on in your body. If you did, if you could feel your liver cringing every time you did something naughty, you
Hmm.
might actually do those things. But on the other hand, if when it's doing better, when certain major organs are maybe kind of happier or getting improved, it's really hard to notice that change very easily unless you're doing some sort of diagnostic before and after so you can see your heart ejection fraction or kidney, levels. So typically the body is going to use those for the things that are more necessary for the day to day. And the inflammation and things of that nature can come, certainly. But, be patient with yourself. And if you have the possibility of doing any kinds of self diagnosis, I think sometimes, because there's also the human psychological aspect of even if I hold two apples, one apple has to be at least 10% bigger or heavier, whatever, for me to see that they're different at all. Right. Otherwise, I'm like, I think it's the same, unless have a way to measure that with equipment. So I think humans are the same. Unless you're seeing a 10% or greater improvement, increase, whatever, in a short period of time, like, within a day or two, you might not think about that yourself. So if you say first time in, even do a self-diagnosis, so like, where's my stress levels at on a scale of 1 to 10? Here, pain levels, etc., sleep, whatever it might be. And then after your 10th time in, you do a self-diagnosis without looking at the first one and say, okay, where are my pain levels now? Where this, where that? Because that's the thing. People tend to forget. I've seen this a lot where people forget that they had a problem. We
Hmm.
had a friend who was a lawyer and he had a lot of issues, but his most chronic one was sciatica.
Mm.
And so that obviously, if you've ever pulled a muscle back there, it's like really hard. It's day to day. It's just not pleasant. And, he had a desk job. Obviously, he was doing all the paperwork, all those things. And somebody finally was like, oh, by the way, how's your sciatica? Because he was just coming in, he'd chat, he'd have a glass of wine with us. He wasn't really even using it the way he should have been. And finally, like when someone asked him, he was like, oh, I guess it's good because I haven't thought about it in weeks and it just wasn't even something I noticed. So it's like I think it's a lot of little things like that that make me happy because it's just quality of life. We don't need to take credit for it necessarily, but I think people forget what got rid of something in the first place. I've seen this with other things. And then they're like, well, and then it comes back sometimes because they're doing the same stressful activities and they don't remember, oh, if I go back and do that, maybe I can feel better again.
That's true. I also remember listening to one of the podcasts with your mom, Dr. Sandra Rose Michael, and she was talking about how somebody felt better and then it was bad again. And then she said, good, that means that it is being healed. The body has to go back to
Mhm.
that place. And can you explain that phenomenon?
Well, I feel like there's a couple different ways. We have our physical body, we also have an emotional one. I believe very strongly in that. So for some people, especially who've gone through like a loss recently, this can create an emotional detox response. I've seen some people just break down sobbing. It's something that they've been repressing and suddenly like the dam breaks. They get a little embarrassed, but it's like, no, it's okay. It's a good thing. You've been holding that in and that's not good for you.
Right.
And then for other people, especially if they've maybe had a lot of chemical exposures or things of that nature, they sometimes get like instantly nauseous in the system. And that's okay too. There's nothing outside your body that's being introduced in a way. It's just your body having more energy. And when your body has more energy to function well, it starts to want to reorganize, and clean house. So it might start pushing things from your cells into the bloodstream in an attempt to maybe eliminate it. And if your body starts to reabsorb those toxins, that's what creates like that nausea, that fatigue, maybe like flu-like symptoms. And this is why those detox baths are so important after the system, is because your skin is your largest organ of elimination. So that's the easiest way for these toxins to be pulled out is through your skin. It's the heat plus the salt. And you can obviously add other things in there. We'd like to do baking soda with the salts because that helps pull heavy metals better than just toxins, if that makes sense. It pulls things slightly differently. And so, and your body sometimes has that remembrance too on a different level. Like I think when you're talking about with your friend, where it's remembering maybe a past trauma and releasing that, and you have that sensation. It's not pain usually, but it's like a slight discomfort, pinpricky sensation of an area of an old energy. I usually say I think it's because the microcirculation is coming back. So suddenly you're having more feeling and sensation or part that maybe was damaged.
So let me ask you this. First of all, you said we know E system does not harm you in any way, correct? So let's talk about the E system. What exactly is it doing?
Oh my gosh, so many things. But like I said, essentially it's just giving your body more energy to do what it wants to do. So from that level, there's I'll take it back to someone maybe that has diabetes. Their body starts to shut down, right? The body then concentrates all that energy back to the major organs. That's why you get neuropathy or eyesight issues. The reverse is also true. Once the body has more energy, it's like, oh, okay, I can start expanding. I don't have to constrict so much and just focus here. I can kind of go up here. And I think it's human nature too to make sure that your basic needs are covered before you can then start expanding in other ways. So again, talking about the emotions, and this is also helping to sync the left right hemispheres of the brain and giving you more energy to make healthier, more conscious choices. It's taking you out of that fright, flight, or fight back into homeostasis. I mean, there's just so many different little, it's like it's simple, but then you have all these ripple effects of positivity.
Okay. So the E system, from what I'm understanding, isn't it creating the space that it's in? It's creating a 0 point, which means that there's no stressors in that room, basically no EMFs
It's
or
it's
radiation or
akin, yeah, it would be like akin to being in a rainforest at a certain point. You're not having all that background noise, is what I call it. The Wi-Fi and 5G and this and that, the other. Our body gets incredibly stressed out on a cellular level being around all of that constantly. I mean, obviously, we still want to be able to use technology. There's a lot of benefits, clearly,
yes.
but uh, how this has been affecting our body, I think, a lot of people have done research even on major viruses and changes in frequency around us. And, it does affect our immune system in a significant way and it makes us more susceptible potentially. So, even that, some people get the system just for that sort of nullification effect, we'll call it.
Mhm.
But and that goes outside of the room. That's part of the effect of scalar in that way is that nullification, that quietude. But the main benefit will always be in the room with the system in that interaction with the light so that we're having more of that DNA cell rejuvenation.
What does the code do?
It's been compared to like an automated prayer wheel. So that's the way I like to think about it, is it's again reminding you, it's sort of like a guided meditation being done for you, focusing on the positive in your space. And I think that is part of what brings you out of that fight, flight, or fight, is that aspect. And again, so many different components that get added together. So that does scalar also by definition is not, it doesn't have intention, right? So think of it as a raw energy source, and that's helping to also direct that to that healing space versus just being energy and potential.
Okay. So is it like frequency? Okay, the scalar energy does not have frequency. It's just an energy to bring everything, the
Yeah,
rainforest
like I
type of
said,
thing.
I think of it kind of also as like a magnifying glass. You have light being emitted, like from
Okay.
the sun, we'll say.
Hmm.
But if you have that magnifying glass, it's really concentrating it and condensing that. Yeah, I'm sure you as a kid maybe even lit something on fire if you held magnifying glass up long enough in the sun. In a good way, but like this isn't a good way.
Okay. You don't
So
want
that's
anything to
how
get
I
burned.
cognate it
Yeah.
in a physical kind of sensation. It's like light, ether, da, 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 but then you're concentrating it for a specific purpose.
Awesome. I was told that the scalar system, it reaches 2 miles.
We have been able to measure its effects about 2.2 miles away, and that was with a smaller system. We haven't repeated that with like a 24 unit, so there's a good chance it could go further. But I call those the cheap seats. You're doing your neighbors a favor. And again, back to the automated prayer wheel, I know that they've done studies before too, where you have, say, 100 people praying in a city at the same time. And they've shown that that actually like affects, like that lowered the crime rate because people were feeling that intention, I think, close by. So one of the things we like to joke is this is like earth acupuncture. Every system that goes in is you're holding space even more for the whole planet.
Wow, that's beautiful. But like you said, you have to be in the room to receive the maximum. Yeah,
The primary
yeah, the
benefit.
primary.
Mhm.
Outside is just that it's making it. It's just a scalar, and inside you have the light and the code and
The
everything else.
biophotonics and the color therapy and all those good things.
Right.
Exactly.
Do you have to have your eyes open in the room for the biophotonics or the color therapy to work?
I'd
Or
say ideally no. We're a lot like I like to bring up the cell phone analogy. If you're trying to charge your cell phone because it's low battery and you're talking on it at the same time, it takes a lot longer for it to do what you want it to do. Your body's the same. If your eyes are open, you're externalizing at least 70% of your energy. So the best thing is to go in and sleep and relax. You don't have to meditate. Like I said, take a nap. Who doesn't want a nap? Every
Mhm.
now and then,
Exactly.
and just let yourself kind of let go. It's sometimes it can be tricky the first one or two times in. It's a new space. Normal, you're like, where am I? Am I comfortable here? Am I safe here? And I think after that, then it becomes very, very easy to just kind of go deep. That being said, some people enjoy that kind of distraction for the monkey mind of the guided meditation. I think that can be really useful for some to have words and something to focus on. So everybody's a little bit different. And I know some people really love to do like sound healings or yoga or movement, anything where you're focusing on your breath and being present with yourself and kind of, sending yourself some love is still a good thing. But as far as best use of time, especially if you're only coming in for 2 hours a week here and there, would be just letting yourself relax. Obviously, I sleep in it. I have a 12 unit around my bed. I'm very spoiled.
Of
So,
course.
I don't have to take time out of my day. And obviously, when I'm in my room, I'm not always sleeping.
Mm. So for the person who's using it for the first time, you said if you can't come for 2 hours during the day, you can just come and sleep.
Mhm.
The
I think
thing
it's the
is,
best thing.
but if you're going to be in the system for so many hours, you've never been in there, is it going to
Mhm.
affect you in any way? Let me tell you why I asked this question. When I first did this, when I went to try it out at another center, I was there for 2 hours. After that, I was completely exhausted. I had no energy. Were three of us, two of us were exhausted, one of us had a lot of energy. like she was like running around and saying, "What can I get for you?" And I'm going, don't even talk to me. I'm like, I want to go sleep. So I did not detox because I had to go for a wedding and right after. So I got sick after that, like I was sick for almost a week. And then when we got the system in our space, again, the first time I was in it for the first 2 hours, or I was there for 3 hours, I felt the same thing because it was a big difference. It was like about a month ago that I did the first one, and then I redid it at our center, and I was extremely tired. Now after that, I've been fine. Like I'm. So is it necessary for someone to come in for a couple of hours first and then come and sleep?
Some people I think like to more for the psychological thing, like, okay, this is this place I'm not familiar with, so I can go there and spend the night and know that, I'm not going to be weirded out. But I think actually, I think of it more as if you are trying to clean your house and you have one person that comes in for 2 hours, it might actually look worse almost before it starts to get better because they started
Hmm.
a project and weren't able to complete it, right? Especially if the house is very dirty.
Got it.
We're kind of like that. So I think having more time and sometimes more units, more help actually gets people to feel better more quickly because you're not stopping and starting the process as much, if that makes sense.
Yes, that makes sense. And I was speaking to somebody else in another center. She said that she started with eight of those, and she said even then she saw a lot of miracles with people. And so I'm, very excited to at least be having the 12. And as we go down the road, perhaps we'll do the rest, but maybe even 48 at one point. But it's exciting.
Have you been to a 48 yet?
No, I have not.
Okay. Well, if you come to Vegas, I know a spot.
Okay, great. That sounds great. Yeah, that must be pretty powerful, I'm sure. Um,
Yeah, I only got to see a 48 more recently. The largest I've been into is 24, um,
okay.
up until about a year and a half ago, personally. And they are quite special. I think the biggest difference is you can have amazing results at any system size, but it's again consistency. If you come in once a
Mm,
month, it's like going to the gym. You're not going to get, amazing results if you go to the gym once a month necessarily.
right.
But after a while, if you're just kind of more maintaining benefits, then maybe that is enough for you. That's perfectly fine. Kind of as often as you like, you can't overdo it. It is safe for everyone, even if you're perfectly healthy. Like I said, I mean, who doesn't want to just feel better, maybe have peak performance if you're an athlete? We've had a lot of athletes that have used it for that reason, just for that
Mm,
recovery period and things. And it's not going to interfere with anything you might be doing with your current medical practitioner. As far as that goes, it's not going to negate anything. No contraindications. I think you asked about pacemakers before. There's no contraindications. If you have implants, transplants, whatever, it's perfectly fine. If you're pregnant, we have a lot of people that, traditionally speaking, it was in people's homes around their bed. So this is meaning that they're maybe young families that haven't even started having a family yet. And this is something that they used during that process where they, had it around their small children and animals. Exactly that.
so it's very safe. It's no, even a pacemaker,
Yeah.
it won't make a difference.
Only time we've helped people be a little bit mindful, which is something they should be doing anyway,
Hmm.
is if they're, say, diabetic and taking insulin, maybe make sure they're double checking their blood sugar levels more consistently if they don't have an automatic pump, because oftentimes they need less insulin than they might normally. So just, some people get into a routine, they take the same amount by rote. Like, I know what I ate today, I know what I need.
Right, right, right. So they have to make sure they check it. So in case it's already going down, you don't want to put so much insulin in and you make it
Yeah,
go too low.
exactly.
Got it. Okay, so everything is as far as children and all, it's all good. Somebody told me that, I know this is a little bit more technical, but somebody told me that the EE system vibrates at 750 hertz. And that's supposed to be a really high, because, love is on 500 and joy is on, I think, 600, and 700 to 1,000 is I don't know, like Jesus was at 1,000, like the vibration. Is Have you heard of that, or is that true, or?
Yes, it does span a spectrum with the predominance of Schumann frequencies, but I wouldn't say like that's the only thing it's at. Like again with scalar, it's such a blanket. It does so many things and it kind of fluctuates through a lot of things. So just
Okay.
think of it as like a cycle. So it
Okay.
kind of would
Moves
it
up
does
and
get up
down.
to there.
Okay. I was also interested about people that have used the system. Maybe you can give me a little. I know you've already been giving me a few examples here and there, but if you can give me few more examples, and maybe even tell me, have any celebrities been using this? I mean, after so many years.
I can't name drop too much because I don't know, we don't have like contracts or whatever, but
Okay.
obviously we do have that interview out there with Tony Robbins. He's
That, yes.
publicly, done that for us. So he has one in one home and one in another and really enjoys it. I do know there's some royalty out there that have definitely purchased it or have used it in different countries.
Okay.
Like I said, lots of athletes. One of our favorite kind of longtime family friends is Linda Gray, if you know Dallas.
Yes.
She's just like one of the sweetest, most loving human beings out there. So yeah, like it's a lot of people, but it's for everybody. Really, is the point.
Great. So you said you're out there in 60 countries. So everywhere, all over the world, India, Africa,
I mean,
you know.
there's still a lot to go, but yeah, we have at least one in the 60. But obviously, India's giant, so they definitely need more than one.
They only have one there?
They only have one so far. I have
Okay.
some people I'm talking to that are interested in doing a 108 unit in Mumbai. So we'll
Oh,
see.
wow. That's big. Let's speak to some of the celebrities in India. They'll be happy to put some in there.
Yeah, I think they were name dropping some people that they're associated with too, which I will
Right.
not repeat, but
No.
even us here in America have heard of at least one of these names.
Awesome. Also, everything is sounds great, and maybe one day I'd love to have your mom here explaining deeper, into the technical part of all of this. Also,
Yeah. In the meantime, I know I sent you some links previously. I can resend them if you need, if you wanted to
yes,
share in the bio,
yes,
because I feel
please.
like the science is so good, and there's some that are not on YouTube, where you can obviously type in Sandra Rose Michael or Energy Enhancement System, EE System, and you can get a lot of our content, obviously on, or eesystem.com as well,
Right.
and find locations like you, because, you might have listeners that are not close by. They still want to try it.
And we'll put it in the information section
Yeah.
that everyone can go back and
Yeah.
look
More
at
the
all the
sciencey
information.
side, 'cause that's
Right.
not my forte.
Yes, but you speak layman's. That's what really we understand. It's hard to go into the science, but I'd like to still get to learn a little bit more about that.
I
So
understand. And I think it should be there for those that want to dive deeper. But getting too sciencey gets very confusing for a lot of
correct.
people. I start glazing over.
But just tell me how it works. I don't need to know all the other stuff,
Yeah,
right? And just tell me if it
exactly. And also,
works.
and it's just, I think after you try it, you have such a different set of questions than you do before you try it, to be
Exactly.
fair.
That's true. And it's so funny when I decided to purchase this for our center. And let me tell you the truth. I just went once for 2 hours, and that's it. And it was just a gut thing. It was just an intuition thing that said, it kept pushing me. You need to do it. You need to do it. And I'm going, wait a minute, like it is, so, but I'm very happy I did, because it's really transforming the space, and it's just new. We just started letting people in. So I look
Wait to
forward to it
see.
being excellent down the
Yes, I
road.
can't wait to see your stories in the next coming months.
Yes.
See what happens.
And I'd like to invite you to come to our small little town, McAllen, right at the border of Mexico, whenever you feel like it, to come and see how we do here.
If I'm ever in the neighborhood, definitely.
For sure. Sure.
Alright.
So, is there anything else you would like to add before we close today?
Thanks everyone for tuning in if you're still here. And hopefully, even if you don't want to try the system, maybe you got another useful piece of information out of this.
Great. And also, my podcast is called Quest for Peace. And I always ask everyone, what does a peaceful world look like to you?
Peaceful. I mean, there's so many different ways we can get there. But I think first step might be just trying to put yourself in other people's shoes more often.
That's true. Yep. And that's why doing this podcast, trying to find, you know, the quest for peace is there's so many different ways of getting there. And health is definitely a very major place, because if you're not healthy, that getting into the place of peace is going to be very difficult. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
think even as a person, like if you're stressed or tired or things, you're so much more likely to snap out or be short with people than if you're rested and happy yourself. So
exactly.
start with you.
Yes. Yeah. If you want to see peace in the world, create peace in yourself. Right.
Mhm.
Also, I wanted a disclaimer to make sure that everyone understands that the system does not heal you. It just creates a space where your body can rest and your body can heal itself. Correct?
Yeah, we're not a
Yeah.
medical device and we don't really desire to be one. I think in Canada, we're actually considered an environmental enhancement. So
Is
I will
that
take that.
right? Wow.
Mhm.
Okay. Great. And like if you are seeing doctors and all, this is not instead of, it's along with. This just enhances it. So I just wanted to make that clear with everyone, that we're not trying you to replace anything. This is just do everything that you're doing and just come in here to enhance all the work that you do outside.
Exactly.
Right.
Perfect.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here again. I really appreciate your time, and I'm very excited to see what comes in the future for Infinite Love and with the EE system. Thank
All
you, and
right.
we will, talk again soon.
Yes.
Quest for Peace, a podcast about navigating outer chaos with inner harmony. Whether you're seeking solace in the midst of life's challenges or simply curious about the profound connection between inner and outer peace, the Quest for Peace podcast is your guide on this transformative expedition.